Hello, NBC News. What you're describing would be called a coup. A coup attempt on the sitting president of the United States. In a tweet, NBC News writes, a network of public interest groups and lawmakers nervous about former President Trump's potential return to power is quietly devising plans to foil any effort on his part to pressure the U.S. military to carry out his political agenda. Let me try that again. Basically, if Donald Trump gets elected and then tries to enact his agenda, special interest public interest groups and lawmakers are trying to subvert the orders of the commander-in-chief. Wow. What do you call a coup that happens before it actually happens? It's still a coup, I guess. But it's interesting. An interesting article. Dude, I love it because the responses are like, NBC News, you are describing the deep state. This is what we have been complaining about. If the people elect Donald Trump and they like his foreign policy, as I do, we want to see that foreign policy enacted. If his military policy, a major component of his foreign policy, is enacted, I think good things will happen. We saw this, no new wars. But what do we also see? When Donald Trump wanted to get our troops out of Syria, because why were they in Syria in the first place? Military lied to the president and to you, the American individual, the American voter and taxpayer. Trump said, let's get our troops out of here. Why? And then they said, well, no, we can't do all that because we got to protect the oil. And Trump said, fine. Everybody but the people protecting the oil. And they went, oh, okay, fine. There's only a couple hundred left. When the reality, substantially more U.S. troops were in Syria despite the president giving the order. I got a simple answer for you, Donald Trump. A simple solution for you. When you win, and I hope you do, we'll see how things go in 2024. Instead of going to one of these military leaders or bosses or whatever and saying, I want to get our troops out of Syria because they're going to lie to you, make the public announcement. I hereby order all U.S. military personnel to begin evacuation proceedings from Syria now. You know why? I want those guys who are, lower ranking officers or whatever. See, these are the guys, they're probably good dudes. But the word comes from high on up, no, we're not leaving. Okay. Well, I don't know. President doesn't come and talk to these guys. He talks to his generals. His generals then lie to him. But imagine if this guy says, I saw on TV, Donald Trump said, leave now. Well, we're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. That's not the real order being given. The president just said it on TV to everybody. Yeah, well, okay, I guess. That's what's going to happen, right? Donald Trump can then just come out again and order. It has now been 2 weeks. I am ordering all U.S. personnel. This is to you to leave. Only way you're going to get it done is if Trump personally goes out there or states to each individual. He says, I want a list of every U.S. personnel that's in Syria because they are going to lie, and it's a coup. NBC News reports fears grow that Trump will use the military in dictatorial ways if he returns to the White House. What does that mean? Dictatorial ways. Is it kind of like Barack Obama killing an American citizen in Yemen? Spare me your lies. Anyway, among those being mentioned for Trump's defense secretary are Christopher Miller, who served temporarily during his administration, Michael Flynn, and Mike Pompeo. They said Donald Trump is sparking fears among those who understand the inner workings of the Pentagon that he would convert the nonpartisan U.S. military into the muscular arm of his political agenda as he makes comments about dictatorship and devalues the checks and balances that underpin the nation's 2-century-old democracy. We are not a democracy, and Donald Trump did not say he would actually be a dictator. This is funny, because the question given to him at this town hall was, will you be a dictator? It's only on day one, and so we can drill for oil and secure the border. Okay, so not really a dictator, just basic things the president can already do. Well, Trump then said, no retribution. Our retribution will be our success, because he's trying to downplay this. We are not a democracy. We've never been a democracy. And these people who keep saying democracy are lying to you. But I get it. Okay, let's be fair. They're not saying Trump's foreign policy. They're saying his political agenda domestically. In what way is Donald Trump going to use the army for domestic politics? Posse comitatus. It's not going to happen. A circle of appointees independent of Trump's political operations steered him away from ideas that would have pushed the limits of his presidential power in his last term. Like what? He didn't even invoke the Insurrection Act during the Summer of Love, and they were firebombing the White House. Trump has raised fresh questions about his intentions if he regains power by pushing forward a legal theory that a president would be free to do nearly anything with impunity, including assassinating political rivals, so long as Congress can't muster the votes to impeach him and throw him out of office. He's right. Look, the game they're playing with you is that they are in charge, they have the power, and anyone who challenges them is a threat. The argument actually put forward about the assassination, as I covered, was this. A president is immune from criminal prosecution pertaining to official duties until he is impeached and convicted. Why? Barack Obama killed an American citizen. I think he should be criminally charged for it. But I think the first that has to happen is confirmation from the government that what he did was acting outside of the bounds of his presidential authority. The president has to do a lot of things as the main executive of the country, but he has checks and balances. So the idea is simply this. As the person who is the epitome of law enforcement for the federal government, we need to know for sure that what he did was a violation of acts of his official duties. We don't want a president to get in and say, I've got to do an executive order on drug issues. And then some pro or anti-drug state says we hereby criminally charge you. No, hold on. It is within his purview of how we enforce these laws. That is what the federal government, the president is in charge of the federal law enforcement. So they do. The first thing that needs to happen then is we need to check to make sure this is not a violation of political duties. Otherwise, every time a president did anything, and I'm not talking about assassinating a political rival, anything, they would be threatened with criminal prosecution. Congress, the federal level, through checks and balances, must confirm what the president did is a breach of his oath of office, a high crime or misdemeanor. Senate must confirm it. When they do, then criminal proceedings may be brought. What they're trying to do is they're trying to take the most extreme thing they can, throw it at Trump, and then go, oh, look, he says he can kill people. That's the angle they're going for. Trump knows it. Trump's argument was, his lawyer was asked, could a president assassinate a political rival and then not be criminally prosecuted? And the individual said he'd have to be impeached for it. And if a president did that, he would be immediately impeached. Every single member of Congress and the Senate would vote to impeach a president who arbitrarily just killed his political opponent. Now, the funny thing is, Biden is trying to imprison Donald Trump, and he's getting away with it. Where is Senate and Congress? Well, that's the big problem. The problem here is this. If you don't have a functioning Congress, the president can do it. And I unfortunately, that's the reality we live in. But I'll give you scenarios I did last week, real quick. Let's say that there's candidate 1, candidate 2. Candidate 1 is the current president. He's the incumbent. Candidate 2, we'll call him John Doe. Candidate 1 is Bill Doe. The president is Bill Boe. We'll go Bill Boe. And the candidate who's running, the chief political rival, there's strong evidence that he is selling American secrets and engaging in espionage for an adversary of this country. Congress brings intelligence to the president and says this man must be stopped. And he goes, this is crazy, though. He's running for office. And they say, well, he's going to sell these secrets to our main enemy. Then they go to a court and they say, Your Honor, look at this. And the court says, I agree. You now have all three branches of government signing off on saying this man must be stopped. He's committing treason and sedition against this country. The president, through his executive actions, deploys troops to stop this guy from engaging in what would be damaging to this country and cause loss of life. And in the process, the man dies. Or even, let's get more extreme. They're ordered, stop this man from delivering. Let's say the guy stole the nuclear football. Like, you can be someone's chief political rival and commit a crime and go to jail for it. Democrats agree with that. Of course, I think they're lying. And therein lies the big problem. What happens if they accuse Donald Trump of doing something, and then this is what happens? It's not so much that the argument is the president can't be prosecuted, but that the system is breaking down. That's it. Joe Biden is trying to imprison his chief political rival. We know that for a fact. He told Merrick Garland, stop being, he called him a name. What do you call him? A studious something or other. And then Merrick Garland went after Donald Trump. The DOJ, several states, they're going after Donald Trump to stop him from being able to win in 2024. We're here. So when they talk about this, we are facing the epitome of corruption in the political system. It's happening. And they argue Trump is the real threat when they're the ones who are engaging in this practice and have been the whole time. Why? Because Donald Trump opposes the American imperial foreign policy. Perfectly? No. Has he made mistakes? He did. No new wars, Abraham Accords, negotiating with North Korea. And there were other things, don't get me wrong. And now it's all breaking down. Joe Biden gets in and what happens? It all breaks down. So this is the game they're playing. Now, bracing for Trump's potential return, a loose-knit network of public interest groups and lawmakers is quietly devising plans to try to foil any efforts to expand presidential power, which could include pressuring the military to cater to his political needs. Those taking part in the effort told NBC News they are studying Trump's past actions and 2024 policy positions so that they will be ready if he wins in November. That involves preparing to take legal action and send letters to Trump appointees spelling out consequences they'd face if they undermine constitutional norms. Basically means they have expectations, and if you operate outside of them, they'll come for you. Norms? Look, if you violate the Constitution, I agree. Don't, and you're bad, and we should take action against you. Norms? What does that mean? The Supreme Court often will rule as it pertains to the Constitution, changing our interpretation. Those norms change. That's normal. Goes through a process to do so. Got to be careful. They say we're already starting to put together a team to think through the most damaging types of things that Trump might do so that we're ready to bring lawsuits if we have to, said Mary McCord, executive director of the Institution for Constitutional Advocacy and Protection at Georgetown Law. Part of the aim is to identify like-minded organizations and create a coalition to challenge Trump from day one. Those taking part in the discussion said, some participants are combing through policy papers and being crafted for a future conservative administration. They're also watching the interviews that Trump allies are giving to the press for clues to how a Trump sequel would look. Now, I got to be honest. I like it. I really do. I do. Look, the president having his power curtails is not absolutely a bad thing. I want Trump to be able to weed out corruption. I want him to maintain good foreign policy. And I know that's what they're going to try and jam up. So it is not a net positive in my opinion. But I want to clarify. It is not all bad when the president has his power curtailed, because remember, this means when we move to the next president, similar powers exist for us. The only problem is we got to get rid of all these rhinos, and we got to get in more libertarian and America First-minded politicians into Congress. I do want to stress this, too, because they mentioned these are nonprofits and universities. It's not necessarily the deep state. When they mention lawmakers, then I can say, hey, look what they're doing. And you know intel agencies are definitely involved in this. They say, we are preparing for litigation and preparing to use every tool in the toolbox that our democracy provides to provide the American people an ability to fight back. Is that what they're calling it, the American people? We believe this is an existential moment for American democracy, and it's incumbent on everyone to do their part. Let me just stop you right there, my friends, and let you remind you all. I hate to break it to you, but Donald Trump's the front runner, and he's winning in all the polls. So when you say the American people and democracy, you're not referring to the majority of the population nor democracy. You're talking about your authoritarian demands that you've already lost public opinion on. Yeah, sorry. I view these people as deeply evil. They say democracy, what they really mean is their power demands, their elite cabal. Figurative, not like an actual conspiracy cabal. America's commander-in-chief has vast powers at his disposal. Some well-known, others not so much. Some lawmakers and pro-democracy advocates worry there may be nothing stopping a president from mobilizing the military to intervene in elections, police American streets, or quash domestic protests. So can I just stress, quash domestic protests. Donald Trump didn't even do that during the Summer of Love, and he should have. And he didn't. And here we are. So, whatever. Wary of Trump's staying power, he is running about even with President Joe Biden in the polls. Huh? Running about. Democratic lawmakers already known to be adversarial to Trump are working on a parallel track. Among the least understood tools available to a president is the Insurrection Act. Vaguely worded, it gives the president considerable discretion in deciding what constitutes an uprising and when it is okay to deploy active duty military in response, experts say. Could you imagine if Donald Trump invoked the insurrection? This is really interesting. What if on January 6th, Donald Trump immediately invoked the Insurrection Act, saying that those who are storming the Capitol are engaged in an insurrection and he will put a stop to it? That'd be really weird, right? They'd be like, Trump engaged in an insurrection. Actually, Trump invoked the Insurrection Act to stop those people. I don't know. Just a weird thought. What would have happened? They say some lawmakers on Capitol Hill worry that Trump might invoke the act to involve the armed forces in the face of domestic protests or if the midterm elections don't go his way. Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat, is crafting a bill that would clarify the act and give Congress and the courts some say in its use. Its chances of passage are slim, given that Republicans control the House and are largely loyal to Trump. Well, I certainly think Trump will not invoke the Insurrection Act, but I am hoping in the event we get hundreds of thousands of far-left extremists firebombing government facilities across this country, not every single one of them, but in the protests. I hope Trump does invoke the Insurrection Act. It's there for a reason. It's remarkable that they firebombed the White House grounds, set fire to St. John's Church, the May 29th insurrection, they call it. 100+ law enforcement injured, the president forced into an emergency bunker, disrupting his official duties. Why, that's insurrection, is it not? I don't think so. But I don't think January 6th was an insurrection either. But if you want to make the argument January 6th was, I'll say May 29th was as well, right? In that instance, Donald Trump should have called in the National Guard. But you know what he did? He pushed out these protests and shut it down. And they don't ever talk about it. There's no investigation. No committee hearings, no panels. There's an array of horrors that could result from Donald Trump's unrestricted use of the Insurrection Act, Blumenthal said in an interview. A malignantly motivated president could use it in a vast variety of dictatorial ways unless at some point the military itself resisted what they deemed to be an unlawful order. But that places a very heavy burden on the military. And as we all know, they won't. I watched this video of Ron DeSantis kicking out a guy in a wheelchair. And everyone's like, just doing my job, just doing my job. And I started thinking about, there's a lot of cops that are just doing their jobs. I don't agree with that. Because it's a country of, for, and by the people. And that being said, if you're going to yell at a security guard for kicking someone out who's saying he's just doing his job, I got a different take. It's private property. Private property is not your property, okay? It's a big difference. I talk about, we have our Discord server over at Timcast.com. Head over to Timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member to support our work, because this show is funded in part by viewers like you. Made possible in part by viewers like you. So, what I say about the Discord, because people are like, I want to post offensive things in here. And I'm like, bro, the Discord space is not a free speech space. It is our private property. Now, we don't own it. It's Discord, right? And we're looking at alternatives for sure. And there is one someone mentioned. But the point is this. I don't own Discord. It is privately run and maintained by the Discord people. And so we say they have rules. We follow those rules. If they come and say we're kicking you out, I get it. It's not Twitter. Twitter is a big public space controlled by a private group that's banning people based on their politics, but demanding protections. They want protection from the government on liability. I say we can't have it both ways. Either it's a public space or it's a private space. You can't argue both. If it's private, they are responsible for what is said on this platform. Can't have it both ways. Discord, however, and I absolutely do respect to a certain degree, like YouTube, Twitter, whatever, having rules on how they run things. It's just I think they're liars and they're biased. And it's problems and they're working with the government and they're censoring people. As for Discord, I say, look, we want to keep the space functioning for everybody, so we have rules. If I have a building and you show up and I say my rules are no funny hats and you want to wear a funny hat, that's too bad. You're not a taxpayer on my property. You don't pay my bills. Go away. That being said, if it's a public accommodation where I welcome anyone in, then we have restrictions. I agree with that. It's tough, isn't it? Anyway, my point is, social media is corrupt. Private security is not the same as policing or whatever. But my point here is just doing their jobs. They say a big burden on the military. That's right. Because the military just right now does their jobs. They say, I don't know. And I have a problem with that. The problem is, as a police officer, as a member of the military, what the Constitution says you can or can't do. So when the government says, if someone orders you to engage in an unconstitutional act, you go, well, I'm just doing my job. Now you are the villain. But if a security guard at a business is told by his boss, we don't allow, funny hats, and you say, sir, you have to leave, that's fine. It's private property. You are not party to this private establishment. That being said, more to the point. Trump's vow to seek retribution on behalf of those he says have been wronged and betrayed has sparked fears that he would use the presidential powers more broadly as a cudgel against political foes. You mean like Joe Biden is already doing right now? And quite literally what your article is about? Can I just pause for a moment, NBC News, and point out the irony in that your article is about Trump's political foes who feel wronged and betrayed, using their legal and financial powers to target their political foes? What a laughably absurd article. These people are crackpots. Compounding the anxiety, he remarked at a Fox News town hall last month that he would be a dictator only on his first day for the purposes of closing the border and drilling for oil. And he later posted on social media that he made the remark in a joking manner. More recently, Trump told a Fox News town hall in Iowa, "I'm not going to have time for retribution." Detractors aren't buying it. Yeah, and his supporters mostly aren't either. He's mostly saying this because he wants to seem more reasonable to the moderate voter, saying, "No, look, we're just going to make this country better, and our retribution is our prosperity." I mean, success is the best revenge, they say, right? And I agree with Donald Trump on that, but I do want to see criminal prosecutions for evil people who have committed crimes. Quote, "He's a clear and present danger to our democracy," said William Cohen, a former Republican senator from Maine, blah, blah, blah. His support is solid. I don't think people understand what living in a dictatorship would mean. I despise these people. Our democracy. They're not talking about our republic. You need to understand this, okay? Someone breaks into your house, and when you tell them to get out, they say, "That man is a threat to my home." Now, hold on there a minute. You're like, wait, I own the house. It's my name on the deed. Who's this guy who broke in now claiming it's his home? He invites his friends in. He then points to you and looks to his friends and says, he's threatening our home. When they say our democracy, they are telling you, the actual heir of this nation, of the founding fathers' vision, it's their country now. It's no longer a constitutional republic. It is their democracy. When they say our, they're not including you. Donald Trump knows this, and his supporters know this. So this is where we're currently at, my friends. They're telling us they're planning a coup, a conspiracy. This is a conspiracy, okay? A conspiracy to get the military not to follow orders of the president. That's criminal. We'll see how this all plays out, my friends, but it's right before your very eyes, and 2024 has only just begun. Next segment is coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.